Biography.
They've incensed a nation with their outrageous behavior.
He would rather be infamous than not known at all.
Stupid and hateable.
It's like the douchebag Olympics.
Here are the 10 newsmakers, celebrities, and tabloid staples that have earned the collective scorn of a nation.
She never seemed repentant.
I think an awful lot of people thought he got away with murder.
These are America's 10 most hated. For over a decade, ePoll has been tracking the likability of celebrities and newsmakers to calculate their E-score. A person's E-score is their total appeal on a scale of 1 to 100. The most liked person this year is actor Morgan Freeman with an E-score of 85. Sandra Bullock, Michael J. Fox, and Betty White are close behind. The average likability score for the people on the most hated list is 3. The 10 most hated people did score, but it was on another chart entirely, the total dislike chart, where 100 is not the score anybody wants. So let's start at the bottom of the bottom. At number 10 on our list is a man who, at the height of his fame, earned $100 million a year, ran for governor of New York, and is the self-proclaimed king of all media. Howard Stern.
Howard Stern came in at number 10. He had a total dislike score of 68, but he also has a very, very large following, so his like score was one of the highest of the top 10 disliked.
Howard Stern got his start at Boston University's campus radio station. Gigs at FM stations in Hartford and Detroit followed. But what really put Stern on the map was a move to Washington, D.C., where he was first paired with his current co-host, Robin Quivers. This is where Stern developed his on-air shock jock personality, with a unique brand of outrageous commentary that shocked, offended, and incensed listeners. It also got him huge ratings.
When you do the type of broadcast I do, and you have general managers, program directors, the government, the sponsors, everyone telling you no, you can't do that, the only people who can save my are the listeners, because they give me the ratings.
I believe Howard Stern has the talent to actually back up the things that he says. I mean, he gets away with saying things that nobody else could ever imagine, and it's because he's actually been a pioneer in broadcasting. He's kind of earned his place in being able to say, the controversial things he does.
Howard Stern surprises me that he's in the top 10 hated. I mean, only because Howard Stern kind of does an act where you're supposed to kind of hate him. That's part of the whole thing. And generally when someone is deliberately being hateable, they're not so hateable.
Howard Stern might be insulted that he wasn't at the top of the most hated list. This is what he does. This is what he gets paid to do. So he might feel a little slighted being number 10.
Stern's on-air antics included cracking jokes about the recently deceased, asking inappropriate questions to his guests.
You're not wearing panties, are you?
And broadcasting explicit sexual acts.
I never think people look at me that way. I don't.
Yeah, that's why you're wearing a top that I can see almost all your jugs.
Almost.
Are those breast implants?
No.
Really? Those are your own jugs?
One of Stern's famous on-air stunts was a bit called Bestiality Dial-A-Date.
So here's the problem with Howard Stern. There's shocking like it's in bad taste, and then there's shocking and offensive like it hurts people. He doesn't seem to know the difference. That's not the same as pushing the envelope. You're just a jerk.
I'm being honest. And every time I feel like there's a thought that should be censored, I go the opposite direction and say, just blurt it out.
Right after the Columbine shootings happened, Howard goes on the air saying that some of the girls that he saw leaving the high school, after this thing were cute, and that he wondered if the killers had tried to get with these ladies. And his point was basically, if you're going to kill yourself, you might as well try to, meet a nice lady right before, you meet your end.
What does having sex with hot girls have to do with children who are obviously ill enough to go shoot up the whole school? I don't even get the connection.
When Stern was working in Washington, D.C. in the 80s, he joked about a plane crash that killed 74 people.
Yeah, Howard actually went on the air the day after this horrific plane crash and called the airline and asked how much it would cost for a ticket to fly from the airport to the site of the crash.
With every outrageous stunt, comment, and FCC fine, Stern gets big press, big ratings, and even bigger paychecks. Stern's outrageousness has helped him build an estimated net worth of $500 million.
I think if you're a guy like Howard Stern, every time the FCC finds you for $1 million, you're probably going to make $20 million in listeners, because for him, being controversial, getting in the news is a huge thing for his resume.
And shock radio, in many ways, is supposed to get people upset. Maybe the fact that Howard Stern appears on a most hated list shows that Howard Stern is still doing his job according to the job description.
Coming in at number 9 is a woman who, as a child, formed a neighborhood babysitting ring, had the trust of some of Hollywood's biggest players, and at the height of her short career, once made $97,000 in a single day. Still clinging to celebrity status, at number 9, Hollywood madam Heidi Fleiss.
Heidi Fleiss started this call girl service.
Classy service.
Yes, out of Beverly Hills when she was 22 years old.
Entrepreneurial.
Yes.
In the early 90s, she amassed a $10 million fortune, pimping high-class prostitutes to a wealthy clientele of Hollywood power players.
She had 20 to 70 women working for her, and she was making bank off of all of these women.
I take 40% of everything, even tips, unless they're under $1,000.
Fleiss's clientele paid a premium for her services and for her discretion.
My worst day, I'd probably make 10 grand.
She made over $1 million in 4 months. I mean,
What did you do post-college?
Yes. I'm like, are we in the right business?
I took the oldest profession on earth and did it better than anyone on earth. Alexander the Great conquered the world at 32. I did it at 22.
Success was short-lived for high-flying Heidi's sex empire. After 3 years as a madam, she was arrested and sentenced to 3 years in jail.
I think that Heidi Fleiss bothers the women of America profoundly, because many of the women of America have husbands of America or boyfriends of America. And Heidi Fleiss was unapologetically helping dudes have sex with ladies who were not their significant others. And the fact that she didn't seem to feel bad about it, I think really struck a nerve.
Getting caught's my biggest regret. You know it. Come on. I don't want to regret what I did at all. It's consensual sex.
Since her release, she's parlayed her past notoriety into a writing career, with an autobiography entitled Pandering, and a dating and relationship guide called The Player's Handbook. And she's shown up on a lot of reality TV. Fleiss is currently raising exotic birds on the Animal Planet.
What's the last place on all of my 5,000 cable channel dial that I would expect Heidi Fleiss to show up? Animal Planet may have been on that list. Maybe that in the Weather Channel.
I think how unrepentant Heidi Fleiss has been definitely kind of sticks in some people's craw, because the way that America is supposed to work is if you do something bad and you get caught, you say you're sorry, and then we forgive you. They say, you know, America loves a second act. But she hasn't ever given people that satisfaction.
Number 10 on the list, Howard Stern. And number 9, Heidi Fleiss. In at number 8 on our list is a celebrity who's been disliked since her first home video. She's released movies, CDs, perfume, purses, and jewelry, and even an autobiography by her dog. Her stated goal is world domination. Heiress, socialite, celebutante, Paris Hilton.
Paris Hilton's your typical celebutante. She's actually one of the very first. She got famous for basically doing nothing, just being herself.
She was born into fame. She didn't really have to do anything. But how did we really know who she was? She made a sex tape.
It was a home video that would launch Paris into the public eye.
She was the first person, I think, to actually have their career improved by having a sex tape. And now you look at stars who are leaking their own sex tapes because they're hoping to have this sort of Paris Hilton bump.
E-Pole first started charting Paris in 2003 after the release of her infamous sex tape. Her likability score started at 20 and went down from there. Throughout the years, Paris went from not liked to really not liked to downright reviled. So how does Paris manage to stay so hated?
She's this really rich person. She's never had to work for anything. She's been taken care of her whole life, told that she's amazing, and then we're surprised when she acts like a brat.
I think people dislike Paris Hilton ultimately because she represents the worst kind of privilege. Like, she keeps doing nothing and keeps getting richer in a time when everybody else is struggling to make ends meet.
She keeps getting show after show after show. And I'm sorry, I think she's run the gamut of dumb. I do. I think, I'm saying that now, it's a new season. Maybe she'll surprise me. Maybe I'll eat those words. She'll do something dumber or dumbest than I could ever have anticipated.
In a lot of ways, people look at Paris Hilton and see her continual run-ins with the law and collectively shake their head in disbelief. Paris Hilton continues like a moth to a light to attract trouble.
In September of 2006, hard-partying Paris added fuel to her personal fire when she was arrested for driving under the influence of alcohol. She was given 36 months probation, but lasted just 4.
She was arrested for driving her new Bentley in a 35-mile zone, 70 miles per hour, no headlights, in the dark.
Can't you get a cab?
You from the Hiltons, y'all got money.
Then you can't send a valet over? I don't understand the problem.
For violating her probation, Paris got 45 days in the slammer.
The amazing thing about Paris is she never seemed repentant. She would just go out and do all of these bad things, and then she would act as if, you know, she deserved to be treated in a special way, which often she was.
After just 3 days behind bars, the sheriff saw fit to release Paris to house arrest due to an undisclosed medical condition.
What actually pissed off America even further when she got out and then had to do house arrest to serve out the remainder of her term.
But the judge wasn't having it. Disapproving of the sheriff's decision, he summoned Paris back to court, where he ordered the starlet to complete the remainder of her sentence in Linwood Century Regional Detention Facility.
She famously yelled, "It's not right," in the courtroom. America loved watching her burn up in flames. Self-induced.
The bad girl, gone worse, has left a less than illustrious legacy.
She set the template. She taught people how to do this new type of celebrity where your existence is more important than anything you actually do.
Everybody loves to hate Paris Hilton. She is never going away.
In at number 7 is a guy that lost a college football scholarship when he was arrested for armed robbery during his senior year in high school. Worked as a bodyguard for bands Danzig, Slayer, and Soundgarden, and married an A-list actress in a story right out of a Hollywood movie. Bad boy biker, Jesse James.
Jesse James is next on our list at number 7 with a total score of 71, with creepy, mean, cold, and rude as his most obvious attributes.
James grew up in Long Beach, California, where he spent his teenage years stealing cars and spending time in juvenile detention. Since then, James cleaned up his act, and in 1993, at the age of 24, he opened West Coast Choppers, where he built custom motorcycles and started a line of clothing. In 2000, James was featured in a documentary on the Discovery Channel called Motorcycle Mania, and James became one of the network's biggest stars when he hosted Monster Garage.
He was viewed as this bad boy done good. But what softened his image was his involvement with Sandra Bullock.
Her godson was a huge fan of the show Monster Garage, and so Sandra Bullock took her godson to the set, and that's how Sandra and Jesse met.
On July 16, 2005, Jesse and Sandra married in a secret ceremony in Santa Barbara. The guests thought they were going to Sandra's birthday party.
Yeah, with Sandra Bullock and Jesse James, their romance was right out of a movie. It's like, here's the bad boy and here's the good girl.
Right as Sandra Bullock's career is just reaching the stratosphere, right? She's winning all of these awards for The Blind Side. She's winning an Oscar, and every time she takes to the awards podium, she's thanking Jesse James, and he's crying, and it's just looking like these guys are gonna be in love forever.
But the day after Sandra's Oscar win, the tabloid press dropped a bombshell. Literally.
I love Sandra Bullock. I was so happy when she won the Oscar. She didn't even get a good 15 hours out of that celebration. Next morning, bam!
The tabloid In Touch Weekly ran a story about Jesse's affair with tattoo model Michelle Bombshell McGee. Once the story broke, other women came out with stories of affairs with James. And incriminating photos began to surface.
It seemed week after week, a new photo came out of Jesse James incriminating him even further and making him even more hated.
He apparently finds it cute or entertaining to pose like a Nazi.
If I were a public relations person and someone said, what's on the top of your list of things I should never do? Ever, 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 ever. Number one, I don't know, never be caught sympathetically associated with Nazi imagery. And number two, never betraying America's sweetheart.
Jesse James at one point had a like score of 75, and that puts him in the upper tier of celebrities. After the affair, his E-score dropped to a total of 1.
You can't rip the heart out of America's sweetheart and expect to survive.
I don't really care anymore. You know, if people, I can be the villain and she'll always be America's sweetheart.
Having an affair behind the back of Sandra Bullock well and truly affixed him on the world's most hated list.
Number 10, Howard Stern. Number 9, Heidi Fleiss. Number 8, Paris Hilton. And number 7, bad boy biker Jesse James. Coming in at number 6 on our list is a small-town kid who loved to play hockey, got his high school girlfriend pregnant, and landed unwittingly on stage at a presidential convention. Levi Johnston.
Levi Johnston comes in number 6 on our list with a dislike score of 75. His biggest attributes are overexposed and insincere.
We first met Levi when he attended the 2008 Republican National Convention with the Palin family. At the time, he was engaged to Sarah Palin's teenage daughter, Bristol, who was pregnant with his child.
I kind of feel bad for Levi. I mean, all he wants to do is, mess around with his girlfriend in high school. And it's not his fault that his girlfriend's mom gets chosen to be the vice presidential candidate. I mean, this is not what Levi planned.
It's hard, it's tough being in a relationship in the limelight. Bristol and I have broken it off. We're not together, we're just co-parenting and doing the best thing we can for Trip.
After his 2009 breakup with Bristol, Levi made the talk show rounds. The topic? His relationship with the Palins.
All of a sudden, he started to sell stories about the Palins behind their back, really seemed to be selling them out, which America does not exactly like.
The gloves really came off when Levi wrote a tell-all article for Vanity Fair magazine.
He levels all of these accusations in the Vanity Fair piece, including calling Sarah Palin an absent mother and saying that she wanted to keep Bristol's pregnancy a secret and then adopt the child and say it was hers.
He said that she was a horrible mother and the children had to fend for themselves while she went out seeking fame.
I mean, a lot of people don't love the Palins, but you've got to say some really mean stuff to make them seem like the sympathetic characters in the story, and somehow Levi managed to actually do that.
Levi hired a Hollywood publicist, and suddenly America saw more of Levi than they ever wanted to.
Among Levi's sterling activities in the public eye, he appeared on My Life in the D List and pretended to be Kathy Griffin's boyfriend. He posed for Playgirl.
After his Playgirl escapades, decided to take it down a bit and become a little bit more serious and run for the mayor.
He wanted to give back.
Of Wasilla.
When I think government service, it's like George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, FDR, Levi Johnson. That's how it goes for me.
Levi dropped out of the mayoral race to focus on his new career as an author.
He appropriately titled his book A Deer in Headlights, because that's exactly what he is. This whole celebrity thing just grabbed him, threw him in the fire, and he's come out with like third-degree burns. He's just a mess.
Why does Levi Johnston get all this attention when an errant sperm cell is, the talent that he brought to the table?
He's just a teenager, kind of thrust into the spotlight, and teenagers do dumb things sometimes.
Coming in at number 5 is a former IT analyst who went through a midlife crisis in front of America, was accused of adultery, and who had over 10.5 million viewers watch his marriage disintegrate on national television. John Gosselin.
It's hard to remember that golden age, lo these many years ago, when John and Kate Plus 8 was this charming, family-friendly show. This was a sweet little show.
In 2007, America fell in love with the Gosselin family on the TLC series John and Kate Plus 8.
Everyone really rallied around John Gosling because They felt sorry for him. They felt that Kate was a bully, that she was overbearing and really just wanted to be famous, and that he was the one taking care of the kids and there for them.
Okay, John Gosling messed up because he was the one that we all liked on John and Kate Plus 8. In this couple, you should win. But John...
In 2009, John was in all of the tabloids for spending a lot of time with women that weren't necessarily his wife. And even on Kate's birthday, he was photographed spending time with another woman.
I just felt like I had to take back some pride in my life, and I did it. And I felt really good. I was beaten down for so long that I couldn't even make my own decision. And when I did, I was like, holy cow, you know? What's she gonna do? Divorce me? Obviously.
In June that same year, John and Kate announced their separation on the show to a record 10.6 million viewers.
Almost immediately, John Gosling starts dating the 22-year-old daughter of his wife's plastic surgeon. So once again, it's that story. Boy meets girl, girl has 8 babies, boy leaves girl for girl's plastic surgeon's daughter.
It wasn't just John and Kate's marriage that fell apart. John's wholesome image shattered almost overnight.
He had a bachelor lifestyle, young girlfriends, constantly fighting with them publicly, having these all-out wars on Twitter, on Facebook. It just seemed something inappropriate for someone who had so many kids.
John went from loving father and henpecked husband to the guy who bought a $45,000 car and hosted parties in Vegas, all while Kate stayed home with the kids.
John Gosling was having a midlife crisis.
The cubic zirconia earrings and the Ed Hardy clothing. I mean, it's like the douchebag Olympics.
John's exploits were all over the tabloids by his design.
John would call us. We'd come over and photograph him. I mean, he was looking for that publicity at the time.
And can I just remind them, they're famous for having a lot of kids. Not for curing anything, not for creating a great work of art.
But see, you know what? That's when celebrity starts getting into people's heads, okay? Because he thinks that he's famous for something else. And it's like actually, you're famous for your family. You're famous for taking care of your children.
So when you destroy that and you become philandering jerko, you've dug a hole in your own boat that you're in.
Yes.
And now you're sinking.
You have no more likability.
TLC wasn't happy about the patriarch of their family-friendly series reveling in his newfound bachelor lifestyle. TLC renamed the show Kate Plus 8 and kicked John to the curb.
After John was let go, he decided to publicly talk about that he didn't think that the show was good for his children.
We're talking about a couple where both parties presumably agreed to get their kids in front of the camera. Only once John gets fired from the show is he suddenly really concerned about the impact it's going to have on them.
The whole thing just seemed really hypocritical, and America doesn't like a hypocrite.
Yeah, okay, I made mistakes. But we all learn from mistakes, except mine are public.
We've seen a shock jock, a madam, an heiress, a biker, and a couple of misguided fathers. Coming in at number 4 is number 32, forced to wear leg braces as a child to correct his bowed legs. Our next subject ran himself to the Heisman Trophy in 1968 and eventually into the NFL Hall of Fame. He acted in over 20 films, but in 1995 his popularity plummeted when he was accused of committing double homicide. O.J. Simpson.
O.J. Simpson is number 4 on the list with a total score of 85. Creepy, cold, and aggressive are his attributes, and that is not surprising.
But O.J. wasn't always hated. In fact, Simpson began his public life as an American hero.
People loved O.J. Simpson. He was a total golden boy. He was on lunchboxes, he was on TV commercials. I mean, the guy was really, really kind of an American hero.
After retiring from football, O.J. went on to do color commentary for Monday Night Football. Acted in several successful movies, including Roots, The Towering Inferno, and the Naked Gun series. He even hosted Saturday Night Live.
O.J. was that likable guy. He had that great smile. Certainly not somebody we automatically had a dislike for.
And so it was so hard, I think, for Americans to sort of see past that and reconcile themselves with the idea that this guy could also be a murderer.
On June 12, 1994, the slayed bodies of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman were found outside of Brown's condo in Los Angeles. O.J. was charged with their murders. On June 17th, after failing to turn himself in, Simpson was involved in a low-speed pursuit.
the slow-speed Bronco chase. They interrupted the NBA Finals for it. I mean, this was a media circus on a level that I don't know if we'd even seen in this country before that point.
O.J. finally surrendered, and the trial of the century began.
People quit their jobs so they could stay home and just watch the trial live.
I don't think they can stand the truth.
This was one of the first times not only were we showing a trial from start to finish, cameras were allowed in that criminal court procedure, but everybody was watching.
The E! Channel would reenact the trial every night with actors, like a crazy O.J. soap opera. I mean, we were a nation completely obsessed with this story.
Let me first get this out of the way about O.J. Simpson. I don't know a single black person who thought he was innocent.
I've yet to meet them.
That was a big deal at the trial, but nobody I know thought that.
Everybody was like, yeah.
Well, it sounds guilty to me.
We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Orenthal James Simpson, not guilty.
I think an awful lot of people thought he got away with murder, and that's not going to put you too high on the likability list.
But then something he did rubbed people maybe even more wrongly, which was he vowed to find the real killer. But when you saw photos of him playing golf and palling around with his buddies during the time when he was supposed to be basically playing Columbo.
In his defense, maybe the killer's into golf.
You're right.
A lot of serial killers are on the PGA Tour. I don't know if you've heard that.
Even though O.J. was found not guilty in his criminal trial, he didn't walk away completely free. Ron Goldman's parents took O.J. to civil court, where he was found liable in the wrongful death of their son.
He was a complete pariah, and that had to be the kind of thing that was really hard for him to adjust to. One of the most bizarre things that O.J. did after the whole trial and everything else was write a book about how he would have committed these two homicides if he'd done it.
You're going to write a book called If I Did It? And then tell us how you would have killed your wife? Really? Really?
If you got away with it, shut up!
Just be quiet!
Don't keep bringing it up!
Due to public outcry and bad press, Reagan Books canceled the release of If I Did It. In 2007, a judge awarded the rights to the book to the Goldman family. Later that year, O.J. found himself in hot water once again. He was arrested in Las Vegas for the armed robbery of sports memorabilia, which he claimed was his. He was found guilty in court, exactly 13 years to the day from his acquittal for murder. Today, the juice resides in the Lovelock Correctional Center in Nevada. He has the possibility of parole in 2017. At number 3 on our list is a woman who was a psychiatric technician, was offered $1 million to make a porn film, and ignited a media firestorm when she gave birth 14 times. Nadia Octomom Suleiman.
With the score of 87, she came in as overexposed and kooky wacky. Kooky wacky is a great score if you're a comedian, but not if you're a mother of 14.
In 2006, Nadia gave birth to octuplets, a feat rarely achieved, and it instantly captured the attention of the American public.
People hear this woman has octuplets, and that's extraordinary news. And the first response is that, oh, you know, you're going to need support, that people want to send diapers and put up collections and all the rest of it. But as this Octomom story unfolds, it gets curiouser and curiouser.
Everybody was supportive and happy for her and her family until they found out she did it on purpose, okay? And then, woo, he turned on Nadia.
Yeah, because she already had a bunch of kids.
Yes, she had 6 in the first place.
You started to realize that there was a truly scary angle of this, that she was an extreme example of what you could do with assisted fertility.
The public was unrelenting in its criticism about the way her 14 children were conceived, as well as her ability to care for and financially support them.
Sit down, please. Where's the twins? Okay, got it.
He was someone that had no job, had no stable income, had no stable life, and she chose to have 8 babies.
I myself have always been a taxpayer. I've never been a burden on the society. From the beginning, every rumor has been wrong. People don't want to be bothered with investigating or researching anything. They just want to take it for what it is and, oh, yep, let me just jump on the bias bandwagon here and go along with the mainstream belief system even if it's wrong.
The media started referring to Nadia as Octomom, and the public's perception evolved as more rumors surfaced.
Her story just suddenly became welfare mom turning her private parts into a clown car and just making the world a worse place.
And then the accusations that she was kind of trying to use multiple births as a means into, her own celebrity.
She's gotten a couple alleged procedures, and a lot of people accuse her of trying to look exactly like Angelina Jolie.
Oh, I'd like to dispel that. You know what, honestly, I personally feel that was an insult to me and to that individual.
I mean, any news story that had to do with Nadia Suleiman, any word she said, syllable she breathed, we were hanging on this as a culture.
This is a person, who isn't a murderer, who's out getting arrested all the time. She's just a lady that decided to have a lot of children. And for this, she got a ton of hate mail. Death threats. Also, somebody wrote her and said that they wanted to rip her uterus out.
The character they created is not only dissimilar, but the total antithesis of me. So it's just a walking joke. It's a person turned into a parody without permission.
If she claims she was turned into a cartoon character, I suppose there's some truth to that claim. At the same time, she was not an innocent bystander. It's not as though this woman went into a hospital, gave birth to 8 kids, and all of a sudden, everybody descended upon her and turned her into Octomom. She cooperated with that, let's put it that way.
You can completely create a person, literally, out of thin air. And I never knew that until this happened to me.
So far, we've seen a radio shock jock, a Hollywood madam, reality stars, and fame seekers. At number 2 is a guy who isn't particularly well known, who lived in the jungle for a while, convinced his girlfriend to call the cops on her own mother, and who embraced his role as the villain on a hit reality TV show. Spencer Pratt.
I feel like I'm an all-star player playing with a bunch of, bad news bears.
Spencer Pratt is most known for being one of the worst reality villains of all time on The Hills. Some people may not know who Spencer Pratt is, but the minute you know him, trust me, you will not forget this guy.
Come on. Oh, we are not shocked that Spencer is one of the 10 most hated celebrities, okay? We have first-hand experience. We have been in the jungle with this man, all right?
Stupid and hateable.
Boom, you wanna play? You wanna play?
This is the thing about Spencer. It's hard to imagine a person who, he doesn't care if you're smacking him, shooting him, hugging him, kissing him. It's all attention.
Yes.
Spencer Pratt has not a single redeeming quality.
Born and raised in Malibu with a celebrity dentist dad and a well-connected best friend, Spencer wasn't content leading an average life.
He and Brody have wanted to be famous their whole lives. All they wanted to do was make money, and one of his great sayings that Spencer always says, he would rather be infamous than not known at all.
Spencer and his best friend and fellow fame seeker, Brody Jenner, had their own reality show called Princes of Malibu that quickly bombed, and they decided the best way to get famous was to go on an already established reality show.
Spencer grabbed his buddy Brody and headed for the hills.
Rumor has it that when the Hills first started, Brody and Spencer actually hatched a plan that they should both start dating some of the leading women, Lauren, Heidi, whoever they could get to go out with them at the time, in order to get main roles on the Hills.
If that was their plan, it succeeded, and Spencer became a permanent fixture on the MTV hit by dating Hills star Heidi Montag. With a major MTV audience, the spotlight was finally on Spencer. He seemed to embrace his role as the egocentric, manipulative, short-tempered villain and became more and more reviled.
He's like this, keep him hating, I'm making the money, keep on hating me all you want, but that's just how he is, and that's how he's always been.
I put in work being this hated for MTV. It takes work to be this hated for your network, okay?
I just think it's the kind of thing that leaves us all with a pretty bad taste in our mouth.
You will see the live, real Spencer Pratt, and you will hate me for that reason very soon.
After 6 seasons, The Hills came to an end. But Spencer and Heidi weren't ready to give up yet.
I think we all thought with the end of The Hills it would be the end of Spencer Pratt, but oh no, we were so wrong.
They got married and divorced, they disowned their families, and they just generally made it a point to become a fixture in every tabloid, adding to Spencer's ill-famed reputation and eventually landing them on national television.
A UK cult classic show called I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here was coming to the US. The two instantly decided that they wanted to go on the show and take over in terms of getting as much screen time as possible.
I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. I don't volunteer, baby, I get paid.
In one episode,
Take me to my car, because Heidi and I are leaving.
Spencer and Heidi walked off the show.
When Spencer and Heidi left, everybody just ransacked their area for extra stuff.
It's like prison rules.
But they came back, and it wasn't a pretty scene.
Spencer and Heidi walked back into camp. We said to them, oh, I ripped the label off of your dry shampoo, and everybody took your stuff. That's where it is.
Where does it end? You just rip up my wife's
Spencer, just calm down.
Cut to Spencer bugging out, losing it.
Let's play. Let's play. Boom! Boom!
Getting in our face like some ghetto hooligan thug wannabe.
Calm down. You don't know who you're talking to.
I was holding my water bottle partly as a technique to not hit him. And he smacked it out of my hand, and he hit my hand, and then I was just like, okay, see, this were not for these 50 cameras.
Let me tell you something. If he hit me, this show would be about the 10 most hated dead celebrities.
When we got back, we had people stopping us on the street going, you should have kicked his to this day.
After quitting and coming back multiple times, Spidey finally exited the show when Heidi was hospitalized for stomach pains. Spencer's next move enlightened America on how to be famous.
He actually wrote a book on how to be famous, which hit one of the bestseller lists. One of the tips is about being hated is better than not being known at all. So for him, he really prides himself on not caring if he's liked, not caring if he's hated, as long as you know his name.
I didn't have gray hair till I met Spencer Pratt.
Yeah.
And I don't, they repel dye.
Yeah.
Because they're evil.
They are evil.
I blame him for my aging. There, I said it. No, seriously, one day I'm gonna kick his
Spencer's earned his spot on the list, but he's not satisfied.
Spencer doesn't like to do anything that he's not the best at, so finding out that he was #2 on America's Most Hated list kind of pissed him off, actually. He would rather be the #1 most infamous person in America than be second best at anything.
You want to know something, Spencer? You're #1 in my book. Most hated.
In fact, we'd like to formally lodge a complaint that Spencer Pratt is not the #1 most hated person on this list.
Every time I feel like there's a thought that should be censored, I go the opposite direction and say, just blurt it out.
Getting caught's my biggest regret. You know it. Come on.
Our e-poll list has seen some very colorful characters.
A lot of these quote-unquote celebrities wouldn't be on the cover of magazines and in every single reality show and entertainment show if America didn't love to hate them.
Yeah, okay, I made mistakes, but we all learn from mistakes, except mine are public.
The list has seen some old faces and some new.
The common attributes that we noticed across the board with all of these were overexposed, and overexposure is a clear sign of I've had enough, I've seen enough of this person.
In pursuit of stardom, often people take sacrifices on what you and I may consider to be general decent behavior.
Hollywood, this is real. Absolutely sober, check my eyes. Totally sober.
They don't care who they're selling out. They don't care what they're doing that might hurt another person.
They just want to be famous for the sake of being famous. They want to be a celebrity. They want to be celebrated, but for what really? That alone is a reason to be hated.
The #1 most hated person on this list is one that I think shouldn't surprise us at all. Most people out there think that she did something really horrible.
According to e-poll's survey, the most hated person in America is the high schooler who invited her family to a graduation ceremony without telling them she wasn't graduating. The woman who wrote bad checks in her grandmother's name. She's the Orlando mother who shocked the nation. Casey Anthony.
Casey Anthony is #1 on our list with a score of 94. Her attributes were cold, creepy, and insincere.
On July 15th, 2008, 22-year-old Casey Anthony reported her 2-year-old daughter Kaylee missing.
Can you tell me a little bit what's going on? My daughter's been missing for the last 31 days. Why are you calling now? Why didn't you call 31 days ago? I've been looking for her and have gone through other resources to try to find her, which was stupid.
Photos showing Casey partying while her daughter was missing sparked a media frenzy. On August 21st, famed bounty hunter Leonard Padilla and his team moved into Casey's besieged home, hoping to find Kaylee.
I convinced myself we'll find the daughter and we'll be national heroes.
But after 9 days, Padilla and his team found little more than frustration with Casey's behavior.
It just seems so bizarre. I mean, you know, in your mind you have a mother who lost a child, maybe to a kidnapping, somebody's got her. There's no concern for that. There's not even a topic of that.
She never mentioned Kaylee, never said, let's go get her, never shed a tear, never even looked like she was concerned.
Get away! Get away! She got this, like, rush from the media attention and from all the attention. You know, she'd get in the car, we'd start driving. She'd say, how many cameras are out there today? Is the helicopter out there? Did I make the top story today?
According to those near her, Casey had a lot in common with others on the most hated list. The need for fame.
Casey loved the media attention, loved the media attention. She told me at one point, she goes, I know what we can do. Jose and I will go on the Howard Stern show.
Casey always thought she was a celebrity. You know, the one comment that sticks in my mind is when she's wearing those big white sunglasses that she wore quite a bit. She said, boy, don't I look like Jackie O? She just fed off this attention. Every conversation, the focus had to be on Casey. She's the star of her own reality show. She's writing it, directing it, and playing in it.
But when 3-year-old Kaylee's body was discovered on December 11th, 2008, not far from the Anthony's home, the story took a far darker turn. Casey was arrested for the murder of her daughter, and the biggest trial since OJ's began.
Long before the verdict was read for Casey Anthony, I think she was a very, very disliked person in this culture. I think her demeanor in the courtroom, the way in which that whole story was told, the bizarre nature of things, I think most people had her completely convicted long before that case was concluded.
On July 5th, 2011, the jury delivered their verdict.
We, the jury, find the defendant not guilty.
America felt like Casey Anthony got away with murder.
I think most people think she was guilty, and when they heard that verdict, someone they already didn't believe and didn't like and thought had committed a heinous crime was now going to get out of it, and that just made them hate her all the worse.
Even though she is technically speaking a free person now, she can't go anywhere. She actually has received death threats. She's in hiding, and it would seem that she's going to be there for a long time.
Casey Anthony, the most hated person in America, has remained in hiding since her acquittal. These are the most hated people in America. But will they remain on the list next year? Or will somebody new become America's most hated?
But I'm at least a little encouraged that the person on the top of the most hated list is someone that was accused of a really bad crime, as opposed to someone who's pretty and famous and on a reality TV show.